One thing I need to check. Check. Pull this up over here so we can hear what's going on. All right, that sounds okay. Hey, Tom, what's up? Max and Hubbard's in the chat. What's up, Max?
Hey, Tom, what's up? Max and Hubbard.
Sycamore's in here. What's up, Sycamore? Pizza in the oven, glass of water in my hand. Life is good. That's awesome, Tom. Pizza in the oven sounds good. I just had some dinner myself. That's a late dinner for you over in Scotland, isn't it? You know what I should do? I should do an updated what's in the bag video because I got all these new cool clubs. And I've been playing with a bunch of different bag configurations. I could almost do like a Phil Mickelson style one. I think he did like 17 clubs, 18 clubs in his what's in the bag. Got a nice early tee time tomorrow, I think it's 6:12, something like that. Nice and early. Go sweep the dew off. Have to hit those putts a little harder. That's what I've learned about the early morning rounds, but it's also nice. I'll probably play with a cart tomorrow. And hopefully be done in like, 2.5 hours. Play 18 holes by yourself. What should we do tonight? I'll probably do some... I gotta hit some short irons again. Spend some more time hitting those. Got some new drills I want to try. And then, of course, we'll answer questions, see what you guys have going on. Oh, trying to get my body ready to move a little bit. Midnight munchies after some football. Love that. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, Daniel. Looks like Daniel's got a sports highlight channel. That's pretty cool. There's some NBA tonight, I think. I think that series is 2-2. I'm realizing the older I get, the more I just need to, like before I get to the first tee, if there's no range, I gotta just make like 50 swings. And just really try to get a feel for how the body's moving on that day. So last time I played, I probably made like 6 practice swings, just, walked up to the tee and I was like, this feels terrible. Do you find that answering other people's golf questions helps you, like gets you back to basics kind of thing? Yeah, Tom, great question. It definitely does at times. I mean, there are times when I'm like, well, you can only, say like it's so many ways to work on a slice, right? And I feel like that sometimes gets repetitive. But a lot of the like back to basics drills that I demonstrate, the small half swings and like focusing on contact, I always find myself feeling like, oh, I should do more of this myself. Like just really work on, let me get this out of the way here. Some of those fundamental things, right, that you would, set up and ball position, stuff that as you become a better player, those, you can get into some bad habits by neglecting those things. So, having some of those fundamentals to fall back on, I think definitely can be helpful. Oh boy. It's going to take a little bit of warming up to feel we're in a good spot. But yeah, it's a good question, Tom. Almost knocked the bag over. That would have been a disaster. Here, let me do this too, just a tiny bit. Maxon wants to know how to hit a draw. Good question, Max. Jason said, "Nice, you are live." Yes, we just started answering some golf swing questions, and I think this is really more what needs to happen. There we go. Yeah, I like to, try to share some of the knowledge that I've spent a long time acquiring in golf. And so the drill that I've been excited to try, guys, is this feet together drill. And I saw a video where Colin Morikawa was doing this and talking about how it really forces you to work on those fundamentals and make a good strike, keep your balance. And you can tell it certainly adds a degree of difficulty as you try to hit the center of the face. All right, but I want to answer Max's question about how to hit a draw. So Max, you want to see the ball, let's assume you're right-handed, you want to see that ball turning right to left. And everything's the same. If you're lefty, you just reverse it, right? So to hit a draw, you got to get the club coming from the inside and the face closing as well, right? There's some great graphics out there to understand. If this is our target line, right, we want the path, say the putter is the path, like this, and the face in between those 2 points, right? So close to the path but open to the target. And that's how you would create a draw, right? So what I would recommend doing is when you're practicing, right, once you understand, conceptually what needs to happen, right, grab a short iron, like grab your pitching wedge, and try to hit a big hook at like 25% speed, right? And make a small swing, where you force yourself to say, like, I'm really going to hit it, get it turning right to left, right? Getting that club face more closed for you and the path more out to the right. So again, you could put a head cover down or a towel. I'll grab a head cover here to demonstrate, right? And you drop it down kind of over here on the right behind your ball and practice making a swing where you're not going to hit that head cover. Right, where your path is from the inside, right? And that'll really help get that face, to a position where you can start seeing that ball turn right to left. Right, and I would also, when you're practicing, don't be afraid to exaggerate it, right? You can, play some games, get creative with it. Say, hey, I want to learn how to hit a draw. Well, what's the biggest hook I could possibly hit, right? If I aim at the back right corner of the range, can I get it to hit the left side of the range? Like, what would I have to do, right? I have to close my body this way, get the club swinging back that, try to really hit some big shapes, some big draws or big cuts. That's how you learn the skills of club face control and path control. Tom says, you helped my slice 100%. Appreciate that. Shallow golf swing changed it all. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Tom. Tim says, as soon as I start my backswing, I turn my hands over and open the club face wide open. What is a good drill to keep my club face shut on my backswing? Great question, Tim. Hey, C. Rich, what's up? And I'll come back to the rest of the chats there in a second after I demonstrate this for Tim. All right, Tim, so what you're describing is you make your backswing and the club face is just getting super open, right? Something, rotating open like this, where that club face is almost pointed to the sky, like halfway back. Right, and this club is parallel to the ground. What you want instead is that club face more parallel to your spine angle at that point, right? So what's a way we can feel that? How do we practice that? What's a drill, right? Imagine, you can even draw, grab a Sharpie, or, you know, just imagine in your mind that there's googly eyes, you know, some eyeballs on your club face, right? And what you're going to practice is for that first half of your backswing until the club's parallel, you want those eyeballs to be looking at the golf ball, right? So it's going to feel almost like you're rotating the car wheel to the left, right? To keep that face more closed, right? That's actually square to the path, right? But less open than you had it. And that's how you can practice what that feels like, right? Because imagine in your scenario, if your eyeballs, they're going to be looking up at the sky or the wall somewhere there, right? You really need it there, pointed at the golf ball. And that will keep the face square to the path to where you can, you know, deliver it back into the ball squarely, right? Really making a big mess here with this disintegrating mat. You know what it might be time to do? I think we're going to do this really quick. Time to switch sides. Kind of a bummer this mat didn't last longer. All right. C. Rich is in here. What's up? Jesse wants to know how to grip the club. So grip is very personal, but I do think there are some key components that can help anyone's grip, right? Number one being when you grip the club in a way that the handle's already forward, right? Because we all know we want to lean the shaft at impact. So why not preset that condition, right? So don't grip it neutral and then try to get the hands forward, right? That's going to make it weaker. So I like to imagine this V pointing at my right shoulder, the V that's formed between my thumb and left index finger, right? And remember, we want that club sitting in our fingers here. It's not back in my palm, right? Hopefully you guys can see this, right? So when I grip the club, it's running through my fingers like this. This V points at this shoulder. Right hand comes on, kind of sits loosely on top. Same idea. This V points at the same shoulder. So, right, you see there, from my perspective, both of those angles, and this club's, again, running through my fingers, point over here. And that's, you know, a great place to start. It's up to you whether you want to interlock or like I do, I just kind of, my pinky sits on top. I like feeling this connection with my left index finger here. So that's my grip. King Henry, who's your top 3 favorite pro golfers? Is that like all time or currently playing? All time, I'm going to go Tiger. Tiger's an easy one. I might have to come back for numbers 2 and 3. It might be Tiger, Rory, and Bryson, if I had to pick 3. So hopefully that helps with the grip, Jesse. Oh, all time. Zachary says, swing the club. We're working on it, Zach. Thanks. Noah said, it's all in the hips. Thanks, Noah. What's your setup? This is a Net Return Pro net and platform that I built out of some 2x4s and gym foam, you know, like padding for floors to cushion the impact a little bit with a, you know, pretty cheap hitting mat on top of it, which is, you know, as you can see, not going to last nearly as long as the Net Return, which I do feel is just such a good product that it should, keyword being should, last a really long time. So I'm a big fan of the net return setup for the indoor hitting, but still a work in progress on the mat, trying to get something more durable. What irons am I using? These are the Tacoma 301 CB irons. Switched to these this year. Really have been enjoying some extra forgiveness. Let's see, this is what I was using before. This is the one that's still shafted up, this 3-iron, but these were the old 2011 TaylorMade blades that I was using. And then I pulled the shafts and put them in these new Tacomos. All right, these C-taper shafts. Yeah, I mean, they feel great. It's a forged iron. You know, like I said, that CB shape, certainly a tiny bit more forgiving than the blades I've been using. These are slightly shorter heel to toe as well, which I like. Ah! Lost our golf ball. You know what we could do, though, is grab some more golf balls. I'm not currently really have it set up to pop the ball back to me with the platform there. So we'll have to work on that at some point, but why not stock up a little? Get out of here, fly. So what I've been working on really hard is that slowing that transition, right? Letting the club start to change direction before we fire it. That's been helping a lot with sequencing and, you know, not really extending quite as much. Trying out this drill, keeping the feet together here to work on ball striking. Oh, not great there. Toey. I like that drill a lot. The other one I've been doing a lot, guys, is this one with the right foot kind of up and back, right? So you take your normal stance, like you're about to hit. Drop that foot back, right? And that's going to force you to keep everything back this way, right? Not going, you know, the dreaded early extend move. And that's a good way to feel like, wow, you really got to get your hips around if you want to rotate through the ball. So I've been enjoying doing some drills like that. Hey guys, Justin Young said great swing. Thanks, dude. RR Blackstein said, like your mom's. Hell yeah. If you have a mom who plays golf and has a good golf swing, oh, heavy. Heavy. Better. All right. If you guys have questions, stuff you're working on in your own golf swing, stuff you want my opinion on, drop it in the chat. There it is. Just gotta hyper focus on that. Keeping the weight where it needs to be. And most of what I'm trying to do in fixing or, you know, getting more rotation into my own golf swing, right, is to take that pressure off my lower back when I was extending and tilting to get to impact, right? I mean, there's just so much stress on that part of your body and your hips and everything. So in trying to build a swing that I can play with for a long time and play a lot of golf without pain, you know, I'm really trying to keep this much more stable, right? You know, let's think about how much less torque there is on your lower back with that kind of move, right? But it's been frustrating. I mean, I went from like a plus 1.5 to a 2 handicap in really short order. Because, you know, despite all the hand-eye coordination and all the, you know, short game and whatever else, like when you make big changes to your swing, you're just not going to hit it as solidly for some amount of time. But I can tell that the good shots, the ones where I, you know, am staying in it and I'm rotating through, I mean, there's just so much more room to hit the ball. I'm hitting it solidly. Dr. Reginald said, I like your tattoos. Thanks, bud. How do you not shank? Do you mean me personally, or oh, you're saying you shank it? So a shank is just an exaggerated heel strike, right? You're hitting it, you know, making impact really in here, close to the hosel, sending that ball out that way, or God knows where, right? So what I want you to do, hit 10 balls in a row on the driving range and force yourself as best you can to hit them all out of the toe, right? So you're trying to move that strike from over here to over here, right? And you're going to practice trying to hit it out on the toe. And what you're going to find is the ones you try to hit out on the toe are probably going to end up somewhere pretty close to the center, right? Because your strike pattern is really in the heel. Bill asks, why is your back foot restarted? Oh, that was a drill we were doing. Kat asks, how to fix slice. So to fix the slice, you got to get the club face more closed and the path more out to the right. So what I want you to do is grab a head cover. This is the best drill I've ever found for fixing a slice. Grab a head cover, drop it down just behind and to the right of your golf ball if you're a right-handed player, and practice hitting shots where you avoid hitting the head cover, right? Because if you make a steep over-the-top swing that's going to cause a slice, your path to the ball will be blocked, right? So this is going to force you to learn how to hit the ball more from the inside, right? Give yourself that room to move the path and shut the face. If you don't shut the face, right, you'll hit a bunch of pushes or push slices if the face is still open, right? So then, you know, once you've corrected the path, then you just got to work on the face, and you're off and running. The net was $695, but it's the premium price for a premium product, in my opinion. It does feel built to last. Do I use graphite shafts in my woods? I do, in my driver. /hide chat. How do I convince my friend that he hasn't invented a new golf swing? Well, maybe he has. You don't know that he hasn't. But I would suggest to him potentially that, you know, millions of dollars of research and you know, how many hundreds of thousands of hours people have spent studying the golf swing and how to make it as efficient as possible now with technology. I think they would have come up with the optimal solution, but maybe your buddy has it instead. I mean, it's definitely possible. CJ says, I want to say all the lives with the lessons helped me so much. Just for playing a year of golf consistently, I broke par. Wow, that's amazing, CJ. Congrats on breaking par. That's so cool. My question is with the net. How do you not shank without protection? Well, always use protection, fellas. I mean, if you were worried about consistently shanking it, then I would definitely recommend, getting some additional netting. I'm personally, I'm just going to take my chances. I was really, really worried that I was going to shank that ball right after saying that. It was just like tempting the golf gods, but no, we didn't. My miss is usually more on the toe. So if anything, if I make a really bad swing, I'm just going to hit it super out on the toe. Lando, I think it was, wants to know about compression. FSU, these are the Tacoma 301 CB irons that we've got in the bag. Vokey wedges. Okay, so for compression, right, that means, we're hitting the center of the face and we're hitting with a descending angle, right, and some amount of speed. So how do we do that? We got to hit ball first and hit the center of the club face. So what I want you to do to practice compression is actually slow your swing down a whole bunch, right, and just make some little, like, 50-yard swings with a pitching wedge or a 9-iron, right, and just really focus on that strike. Feeling like you can consistently deliver, almost like you're hitting a nail with a hammer, right? Where that you let it load up and then you, boom, right? That's what it's going to feel like when you hit the ball first, right? And just practice some really, really small ones where you get that feeling. If you need some physical feedback, you could put a piece of tape down right behind your ball, right, to make sure that you are hitting the ball first and then the turf, or even a towel, right? You could grab a towel, drop that down, an inch or two behind the ball, and just give yourself some feedback, right? So that if you were to catch it heavy, you get, immediate feedback. So give that a try. And hopefully that answered your question about the slice when we did the other drill, but drop me a line if you still need help with your slice. Yeah, guys, these are the Tacoma 301 CBs. Let's talk about these for a little bit. So they are, these are the blades that I came from. These were 2011 TaylorMade MBs. This is the 3-iron that I still have shafted up. The rest of them are in a box. But I pulled the shafts, put them in these new Tacoma irons, right? And as you guys can see, it was kind of unfair to compare, a 3-iron and a 9-iron, but I'll grab the 4-iron. That's a little closer, right? So the top line is going to be a tiny bit thicker than a true blade, right? But the Tacoma is a tiny bit shorter heel to toe, which I like. The toe shape is very similar, and the offset is very similar, right? Very minimal offset in these irons, even down, into the longer irons, which is great. Super clean look at address. Sole shape, as you might imagine, right? Much wider sole than a true blade, with a fraction of, leading edge relief here, which is fine. So the reason I switched was to get a tiny bit more forgiveness, right? These irons are beautiful and amazing, and when you're playing great, they fill you with confidence. Like you're never going to miss the center of the face, but the reality is for most of us that our swings aren't super dialed day to day. And for me, those days where I'm a little bit off, say I do hit some more than usual out on the toe, or it's further out on the toe than usual, right? Well, those blades, I'm going to lose, 15% of total distance, 20%. These, it might only be, 8% or 10%. There's some amount of additional perimeter weighting to help that strike. So, and they feel really good. I mean, you can hear it. It sounds great. So, big fan of the Tacoma irons. Is he happy with his scores? Yeah, good point, Alex. You have to be brave. I'm switching from baseball, so I have lots of bad habits. That's okay, Owen. So again, do that head cover drill for the slice. We talked about compressing it with Lando. Evie says, any tip on keeping both hands in front of the body? Yes, so there's a great drill that you might have seen Rory do. This will be familiar to some of you guys, right? Where he'll take it to the top, and what he's done is he splits his grip, right? So take your bottom hand, put it down close to where the grip ends, right? Make your backswing, and then practice just this move, right? This is really going to force you to feel, because of how much further down the club the right arm is, what it feels like to keep that right elbow in front of the body on the way through, right? Because what you're talking, you know, if you don't and you get stuck this way, that's a recipe for disaster, right? You're going to hit it a mile to the right or flip it and hit it left. So try that feel, right, with the split grip. And that is a great way to feel, right, also, you know, how much right side bend you need to get to a good impact position, right? So I like doing that occasionally, you know, when I'm feeling stuck a little bit, you know, just take that hand off and make some feels like you're really keeping the arms in front. So give that one a try. What's your favorite driver? Good question. Well, I've been a pretty loyal TaylorMade driver user for a long time. I was fit into these years ago, and I've played these, gosh, since like the M1, whatever, maybe the one before the M1. It's hard to remember. I've got the QI10 Max in the bag this year after our Stealth broke. Some of you guys remember that from earlier in the year, hitting range balls, trying to get up to higher speeds, and boom, cracked the face, splintered it. Unfortunately, I was a couple months out of the warranty period, so I didn't get a replacement. Sad. Any tips to stop hitting the driver very low? Good question, Keenan. So if you're hitting it very low, what I imagine might be happening, right, is you could be hitting somewhat down on the golf ball, right? So with the driver, clubs, you know, the ball is sitting up on a tee like this, right? And ideally, we want to hit up on it, right? So that we can launch that ball up into the air with not a lot of spin, right? That's how we maximize the distance for any club head speed, right? Is launch and spin. So if your drives are coming out very low, what might be happening, you could be hitting down on it, right? Like an iron. So that your effective loft or your dynamic loft at impact is suboptimal, right? We want that ball launching at 13, 14 degrees with you know, a face angle of, you know, between 7 and 10 usually, right? So we want to be hitting up on it some. So practice doing that, right? Just try to hit some balls on the range as high as you can and try to feel what you have to do to, you know, just get that attack angle a little bit higher. Do you like the TaylorMade carbon faces? Good question, C. Rich. I do like them. It took a little bit of getting used to when I got the original Stealth, but I think they still have a really good sound and feel to them. You know, they feel, I would say this, they feel very, very solid when you hit it, you know, when you hit the center of the face. You know, like a real thumpy. Mike G said, should I sub? Need a golf channel? Yeah, sure, Mike. Come join us. We only started on YouTube the beginning of this year in like mid-January, so I've been super pumped and really kind of blown away by the amount of support. Right, you know, we're well over 2,000 subs now. Channel got monetized, all within the first few months. I mean, I've truly have been so grateful and just and blown away, like I said, by the, you know, engagement, people showing up for the live streams, you know, just continually subscribing, you know, sharing the channel, stuff they see on shorts or the lives with other people. You know, we've had brands reach out now. We've had people reach out to collaborate. So all these things are happening and accelerating, and it's very rewarding. It makes me feel good, like I'm giving back, and there's, you know, some engagement with the audience, and that people are getting something positive out of it. M2 is the GOAT, arguably the best driver ever made. I agree with you, Alex. Sugar Sean going to live is wild. I hadn't heard that. Mike G the legend. That's right, Matt. Hell yeah. Do you breathe in your backswing? No. I don't think I do. Let's see. Let's just try to hit one. Like, say I wanted to hit one hard. No, I'm definitely pausing my breath before I make the swing. Like, it would feel, you know, if imagine you were doing any other, like, high-intensity athletic motion, right? You would breathe in and breathe out, right? But you're not actively breathing. Love the stealth and the QI10, and Cobras are nice. That was a nice swing. Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. That's a nice comment. Okay, Brighton says, new to golf. I'm struggling with where to hold my hands and my arms for my swing. 6'2" with only a 5'9" wingspan, so I think I'm turning my hands and stuff. Drives often curve to the right. Okay, so number one thing, Brighton, that I am not equipped to do with this live stream setup is fit you for equipment, right? But if you are above average in height, but also, you know, you're maybe not proportional like you described, getting fit is a great idea to really have a professional look and say, hey, you know, this is equipment that could be beneficial for you, make golf easier. So that's definitely a good investment, in my opinion, if golf is something that you're interested in doing, you know, for a while. But beyond that, right, if the drives are curving to the right and you're a right-handed player, we can help with that too, right? So where did I put my head cover? I'm going to do the same drill, you know, for the slice. This is because it's the best drill, right? So drop this down, your head cover, just behind and to the right of your golf ball, right? Make sure there's a little bit of room here, but not a ton. And the drive's curving to the right for most, not everyone, most beginner golfers is because the club gets inside this way and then looped over this way to get back to the ball, right? And so your path is this way, but you open the face, right? Because you know you can't swing it over there. So that's your brain taking over. And then what do you end up doing? You end up cutting across it with an open face and slicing the ball, right? So what this drill is going to help you do is get that path more shallow and less steep, right? Which is a good thing for hitting drives, especially if you're hitting them far and straight, right? So if I make that over the top move, I can't even get to the ball, right? My path is blocked. So practice hitting some shots. You don't have to do this at full speed. I would definitely recommend making some, you know, some shorter ones, right? In practice, what would it feel like to not hit that head cover, right? You have to kind of give yourself some more room in the backswing and then let that club fall and shallow, right? And you can just hit some little ones like that, right? And just try to get a feel. You know, you're going to have to exaggerate these things. You're going to have to really, you know, get uncomfortable in what your swing and your path and the face looks like. But that's the basic idea, right? To try and get that face more closed, the path more neutral, and hopefully start to see that ball straighten out or even draw a little bit. So give that a try, Brighton. Michael says, I seem to be able to hit my 3-wood really well. It's very reliable, but not consistent at all with driver. Any tips? So Michael, what I'm guessing could be the case is that your swing is a tiny bit steep, such that even up to 3-wood, like you're saying, you can make good contact, you can hit good shots. But, you know, even you might be, you know, getting suboptimal results with driver, even if your attack angle is only, you know, -1 or -2, right? That could make it much harder to control the face and where the ball's going. You know, and I think it's one of those things you gotta try to separate the swing that works for the driver and the swing that works for everything else, because they are different. So, you know, spend some time doing block practice with the driver on the range, right? Hit 20 drives in a row, give yourself a target, like a 50, 60 yard wide target, and just practice hitting balls into that target, right? You know, if you got to hit it higher, if you're a little bit steep, you know, you can do that drill I just demonstrated with the head cover. Try to shallow that out, get that attack angle higher, right? Because you got to remember, guys, the driver is different. We're trying to do something different. The objective is different, right? We're trying to launch that ball up into the air, right? Not hit down on it, like with our irons. So, give it a try. How should your feet look when driving? Oh, sorry, I missed the question. Do you know roughly how much the cost is for customized stuff for that? No, I think it's more about getting fit so that you know, like, do I need irons that are half an inch longer, an inch longer, that are, 2 degrees flat or upright based on your body, right? And then you can adjust from there. It doesn't mean that you necessarily need to, buy it from the place that fits you and spend a whole bunch of money. Baylor said hi. What's up, Baylor? Justin and Cartier said hi. What's up, guys? Shout out to you guys. Do you get annoyed when people watch you at the range? No, I've never really. Do you mean like physically in person, like while I'm streaming? I stream at the range sometimes. No, I've never been bothered by that. I try to, for the most part, I try to stay out of people's way, and they're doing their thing and I'm doing my thing, and try to be respectful. Okay, Bubsters wants to know, how should your feet look when driving? So I like a little bit of flair, right? Kicking these toes out. Not a whole bunch, right? You don't need to look like this, but some amount of flaring of the feet, right? To allow your hips to really turn back and through. But a little bit wider than shoulder width. You'd want your ball position forward of center with the driver. So hopefully that helps with driver setup. Okay. I hit the heel part of the driver. So there's a lot of reasons you could be doing that, right? It could be path or, a bunch of things. But if you want to try to find the center, the drill I would ask you to do is try to hit 10 drives in a row out of the toe, right? So really try to aggressively adjust your strike location, right? I struggle with the heel strike sometimes with the driver too. And so what I'll do is I'll line it up way off the toe, right? Knowing that, if my intention is to hit it off the toe, well, then I'm very likely going to hit it pretty close to the center. That one I actually did it, and I hit it off the toe, which is good. That means that I've developed that skill to move the strike location around the face, right? But go on the range, hit 10 balls, have your intention be to hit them all off the toe. I think you're going to hit a bunch of them out of the center, right? And that's how you start to develop those skills, so give that a try. Michael says, I tend to place the ball with driver right in line with my left heel. Is that correct? Yeah, it's definitely in the range. I've got a problem with my shaft. Can I send you a photo? Only if it's a really, really bad problem with a big shaft. Asher says, why does my club face open no matter what when I swing fast? Good question, Asher. So what you're telling me is that you've reached a point where you can swing at a speed in excess of your ability to control the club face, right? And we never want to do that, right? We always want to try to hit shots on the golf course that we feel, especially off the tee with a driver, right? Make a swing where you feel like 9 out of 10 times you can control that face. You might have to feel like you're swinging at 75%, right? But I would argue objective one is to control the club face with as much or as little speed as possible, and then add speed from there while you build that skill, right? But if you're telling me, hey, I'm swinging too fast to control the club face, I'd say you have to swing slower. And then, you just have to practice, like, ratcheting up the speed. And then you say, okay, I lost the control of the face. And you just try to add it up to there. Is that a max or regular QI10? This is a max. Hello from London. Played the Bali High in Vegas recently. Stateside have some amazing courses. Amazing. Thanks for coming in from London. That's cool. I love the international audience. Where are you based out of? New England. What's your setup for fade and draw? Well, with the driver, I only ever try to hit a fade. Every drive I try to hit left to right. I'm not, or straight, right? I never really am intentionally trying to hit a draw on the golf course. Now, there are days when my swing is saying, hey, like, it's just going to be a draw. And if you want to not hit a draw, you can hit a smaller draw potentially. But, maybe you got to ride it out on those days. But setup-wise, the fundamentals are still going to be the same, right? A draw, I think, helps to open the stance, right, left of target. Whereas for the draw, you would close it, and I'm exaggerating these positions, obviously, to try to create those conditions. Muckler says 15 handicap. That's close. I'll play you off 15 if you want to give me 15 shots. What's your setup? Oh, we asked that one. Any tips on how to best hold the clubs for driving and for other clubs if different? So the grip's going to be pretty similar. Muckler, if you gave me 15 shots, I would own your house. So the grip's going to be pretty much the same, right? You want it. The fundamentals with grip are keep it in the fingers, right, with both hands. And no matter how you choose to grip it, right, you know, that could be interlock, could be overlap. Yeah, you know, it's untraditional or unconventional, but, you know, there are good players that play with a 10-finger grip, like a baseball bat. But the fundamentals are still the same, right? We need to deliver the club face back to the ball at impact with a pretty square face, you know, and generate speed. So the fundamentals are keep it in the fingers. And you want these Vs, the ones that are created by your thumb and index finger, to point at this right shoulder. That's a really good checkpoint, right? To see, okay, both of those are pointed at this right shoulder, or, you know, you can see a couple knuckles, 2 to 3 knuckles on the left hand. You know, those are some good checkpoints to know that you're, you know, at least in a decent spot. And then the thing, especially with irons, not so much for driver, it's not as relevant, but with the irons, I think it's important to grip the club the way that, you know, set up to the ball the way you want to hit the ball, right, with the shaft forward. I see so many instructional videos where guys are like, this is how you make your grip, and this is what it should look like, right? And then 2 minutes later, they say at impact, you need the handle forward. Well, if you make the same grip like this, and then you just push the handle forward, what do? You weaken the grip and or, you know, pointed the face to the right. So I think most people would be better off pushing the handle forward and then gripping it, right? That will make your grip feel stronger, like your left hand is more on top. And that, again, because most people hit the ball to the right, having a stronger grip, especially with the left hand, will help control that club face and get it not as open. Have you ever done a fitting? I have done a fitting. I've been fit for drivers and woods. I've done an iron fitting. I think the only thing I've never been fit for is wedges, and I've always played Vokey wedges and never felt the need to get a fitting. Will, what does it mean if my tee flies backwards compared to forwards? I don't think that means anything, Will, because remember, by the time your tee has done anything right, that golf ball's long gone. You know, it could be impacted by like how compacted the tee box is. I wouldn't worry too much about that. When hitting driver, how much do you lift your left heel up or at all? Is this all in body rotation, or should I try not to lift it at all? So people who are wrong will tell you it is imperative to keep that left foot on the ground. Players like Jack Nicklaus and Bryson would tell you otherwise, right? Obviously, you can play great golf, and guys like Padraig Harrington say that's instantly a way to hit it further, generate more speed, right? By letting that heel come up, you know, it's going to get you a deeper turn. Mine is less pronounced now, but I've played with my heel, letting my heel come off the ground, you know, for several years now. And the way that I, you know, discovered, or like the way, you know, it started to feel natural to me was I was just doing speed training, trying to say, okay, how fast can I swing this driver? Like, let's really get the speed up. And what started happening was my body was naturally letting that heel come up in order to get more rotation back this way, right, to generate more speed. So you definitely can do it. Chad wants to know, what does a forgiving driver mean in a golf club? So drivers are designed, you know, to produce different results, right? So this max driver has a larger club head and a deeper face. So it means it will spin more, right? More spin means the ball on miss hits will go straighter. But it also means, all things equal, the ball won't go as far, right? Whereas like an LS driver that is designed to be super low spin, has a very shallow face, to generate high ball speeds, but it's very unforgiving, right? So those miss hits will be more penal. And so it just comes down to, you know, where the center of the gravity is placed in the head and the depth of the face and the spin conditions that it produces. Hello from Kimby, West New Britain, from Papua New Guinea. Awesome. Shout out to Tobias coming in from Papua New Guinea. Have a work golf day setting up for early October. Cool. What's for lunch? Where are you at right now? We are in New England. DJ said, wow, you fixed me. Amazing. Oh, JPB, don't get me started on this question. What's your opinion on fairway woods, like having a 5 or 7 wood in the bag? Well, let's show you. So there's the driver. Watch how many head curves I'm going to pull out of my bag right now. 3 wood. 5 wood. 7 wood. And the newest one, this is a 5 hybrid that I've got back in the bag. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 head covers, not including the putter. I am trying to make golf easier for myself, and early indications are very good. Very, you know, I don't need to be hitting 2 and 4 and 5 irons anymore. Like especially into par 5s. I mean, from outside of 200 yards, right? My goal is to hit it as high and soft as possible for the most part. You know, outside of like very windy conditions, I still have the 2 iron over there in case I need it. But yeah, big fan of more woods. Michael says, thanks, appreciate your advice. Super helpful, great teacher. I appreciate that, Michael. If you guys are, like Michael, enjoying the stream, you want to hit that subscribe button. It does really help us out. So I'm always incredibly grateful for everybody who's subscribed. What's for lunch? I hit a fade my whole life. This year I'm hitting consistent draws that are almost rope hooks. Sometimes, any ideas besides maybe I'm hitting off the toe too much? Well, that could do it. But generally speaking, what you're describing is that you know, the path has gotten more from the inside, right? If you were hitting a fade before, I imagine, you know, you were somewhat from the outside with the face slightly open, right? And your path and face relationship has shifted such that at impact, you're getting that ball turning right to left. So, you know, if you're like saying, hey, I don't love that, I want to just see the ball get left to right, you know, my best suggestion would be get on the range and try to slice a bunch off the planet, right? Just be like, hey, I want to see that ball, get it going left to right again. I need to open the face. I got to shift the path, whatever I have to do. Just get the feel again, like hit some fades, hit some big cuts. You know, you can tee them down, tee them up, like just make sure you're hitting cuts on the range. And that should help kind of develop that feel. Shapes of London. What does a 9.5 degree do better than a 10.5? Nothing. The loft is just about, you know, we're trying to optimize those launch and spin conditions with the driver, right? So for me, I have a 9 degree head that I have set down to 7, right? So I'm playing 7 degrees of lofted address. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can still launch it at, you know, 11, 12, 13 degrees. And that lower loft helps keep the spin down, right? So more loft will create more spin. You can imagine an extreme example, right? A 60 degree wedge is going to spin a lot more than a driver that has a flat face. Jet said draw hook. Help me a little more with your question, Jets, and we'll get back to it. I have beginner clubs and would like to upgrade, but not everything at once. What do you recommend updating first? Good question, Michael. So I think, if you, this is just my opinion. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but if you're saying, hey, I want to slowly over time upgrade my whole bag, right? The places I would start are with the clubs that you will use the most. So I would start with, you know, your putter and your driver. And I'll say this for everybody, not just if you're a beginner, but especially if you're a beginner. You can start playing golf and having a great time with 4 or 5 used clubs. You can get on eBay or go to a thrift store and find a driver and a putter and a couple irons and maybe a wedge and go out and get to the range, start playing 9 holes, you know, learning how to develop some skills and have a great time, you know, start learning golf with your buddies, you know, without spending thousands of dollars on 14 brand new clubs. I feel strongly about that. I think, you know, golf has an accessibility issue as it is, and equipment doesn't need to be another one of those issues. Hey, Paul, what's up? Paul's one of our longtime supporters from Scotland. Making me second guess myself at address. Thanks, we'll try that. Should people play blades? I think people should play whatever they want. But I think you just have to understand the trade-offs you're making, right? Like whether that's forgiveness versus workability or aesthetics versus function, right? I'm, shifting more towards the forgiveness route, playing these CB irons, and maybe I should even get something more forgiving than that. But I switched away from playing blades because I said, hey, I like how they look. I love how they, perform when I'm swinging really well. But I'm not always swinging really well, and I want to still, play good golf and put up good scores. So I'm going to get something more forgiving. But that was a conscious choice that I made, right? To have, irons that have a thicker top line and are slightly less appealing to my eye, to hopefully, hit more greens on the, few swings around that you're not going to hit the center of the face. So let's do some of these with driver. We're going to do that same feet together drill here, guys. Man, that's good. Really forces you to feel some different things with the lower body. Especially for me, feeling more like that right side is staying more closed, right? Not going this way, but going just pushing straight that way. It's interesting. Is it better to have flexible wrists or static wrists like rigid? I would say flexible, Paul. I'm always trying to keep the tension out of my hands and arms, right? Trying to feel like I'm swinging a rope almost, right? With my body's, swinging something that needs sequencing and, so that would be my opinion. I think if your wrists were rigid, you'd have a hard time, kind of getting the transition right and getting some lag and angle into the club. But I'm curious what you think, Paul. Okay. Hello from Australia. Shout out to 4Golf's sake, especially using more woods. Everyone should have a 7-wood or a 4-5 hybrid. Yeah, shout out to you from Australia. Very cool. Any suggestions for affordable wedges? I would start with, like eBay or GolfWorks is a good site. Look for some used, gently used wedges. You could probably get them for like $50 a piece. Just be patient, stick around, like you can go see what brands you like or what shapes you like for wedges. What's the key to good driver setup and swing, and how do you line up properly with the driver? So the thing that has helped me the most in my driving is really feeling like I have a solid base, right? I used to stand with my feet, really close together, right? And kind of try to sway back and forth to generate speed, right? If you watch athletic movements, right? If you watch people, move heavy weights or swing other things fast, right? Like, Mike Trout doesn't stand like this when he hits a home run, right? He's like this, and he's like loaded up and using his legs, and generating a ton of speed, right? So I think having a stable base is super important for driving, right? To really be able to, have some stability, to brace and rotate around. What I've been trying to work on is a little more hand depth, right? More turn. Trying to not get so steep with the driver. Who else is in here? Nip Sauce is here. What's up, Nip Sauce? So Fasty, with the lining up, right, with alignment, you just got to practice it. Drop some alignment rods down. Where have they gone? Oh, they might have gone somewhere. Oh, no, they're here. Right? And give yourself, some reference points. You don't have these out on the golf course, but it can be good to practice. And set it up to your target, right? And you can just practice getting in here, figure out where you want the ball position to be, where you want your feet to be relative to your target line. Right? And just practice standing in here and saying, okay, You know, that feels pretty good. You can check yourself, right? See where you're at relative to your target. You want these lines to be pretty parallel. You know, but it doesn't have to be, right? You know, your goal is to hit the ball at your target, not to have your feet pointed. You know, and plenty of good players that set up naturally close or open to the ball and hit the ball perfectly straight. So again, it's just, you know, you got to practice, get some reps getting into the ball. Do you think it's good to train with blades and play with a more forgiving club? Michael says, I think it's good to practice what you will play to get consistency in your game. I think both approaches could work. I do like hitting my old 3-iron occasionally, right? I'll grit that out in here, you know, or demonstrate for you guys sometimes. But, you know, is it a useful exercise to, you know, I'm never going to bring this club on the golf course with me at the moment, right? But I still get a ton of confidence and feel like I get good practice by hitting this club because of how unforgiving it is, right? This is a true blade, 3-iron, right? I mean, if you're not hitting the center of the face, you're going to know right away. So, like that was hit out of the toe. Felt terrible, right? So you get really good feedback. Plus, once you start flushing it, not like that, right? Then you can really say, oh, well, those other clubs, they look super forgiving, right? That was better. So feeling the center of the face with an unforgiving club like this can definitely be good practice. And so, yeah, I mean, once you hit a few really nice, you're like, wow, that, you know, feel pretty good. Is the Stealth 1 driver good? That's what I had for a long time. I thought it was definitely good. It's not forgiving. It will definitely penalize you if you miss the center of the club face. So you should know that about it. I would say if you're looking at used TaylorMade drivers, like a Sim 2 or Sim 2 Max is pretty cheap usually. I think those are maybe even better for most beginners. Let's hit some hybrids in here. I haven't been practicing this club very much. Best wrist release point for driver. Whichever one gets you to squared impact. Hello from Fiji Island, struggling with my driver, duck hooking. Good question, Tui. So I would say get on the range, and you got to learn how to hit a huge slice, right? If your normal swing is producing a big duck hook, you got to learn how to get the face more open and neutralize the path in order to see the ball turn the other way and eventually fly straighter. So just try to hit 20 balls on the range and try to slice all of them. What shaft do you have on your driver? From Eric. This is the Oban Kiyoshi Purple. This is a 0.5 flex and 65 grams. I have this shaft in my 3-wood and 5-wood as well. It's a great shaft. Caught another one from Eddie. What's up, Eddie? Thanks, brother. You always have a good breakdown explanation. I think your swing is improving, John. Improving. Thanks, Paul. What's the best tip for an iron, Lincoln? Learn how to hit the center of the face consistently and optimize your impact. Right? So learn impact with the irons and then add speed to make the swing longer. So the drill that I love to tell people as beginners is grab a pitching wedge. Try to hit it 40 or 50 yards on the range, right? You're not making a full swing. You're just trying to chip it out there, right? But get into your full setup and really focus on getting to that quality impact position, right? Where your hips are open to the target, the shaft is leaning forward, and you're striking it, you know, with some amount of descending angle into the ball, right? And just make that little swing focused primarily on hitting the center of the face with good contact, right? So you're just trying to develop that skill of getting to impact solidly, and then you add more speed to it. How about the bomb by Spawn? Yeah, that was crazy yesterday, right? I mean, I was worried he wasn't going to get it down in 2, and then he just canned it. 65 feet, the longest putt made all week long. Is crazy to make it on the last hole to win the U.S. Open. Hell yeah, my dad gave me a Sim 2 Max. It's nice. That's awesome, Declan. Steve said cheesesteaks on the way. I love that. Shout out to Steve. Gold, how do you putt better? Practice, right? There's some great drills you can do. I've been doing 50 putts on the Pels Tutor. The Pels Tutor is a training aid that simulates a gate, right, to practice starting the putt online. And I've been hitting 50 putts a day from 5 feet with the Pels Tutor on its most narrow setting. You can check out those videos on the channel if you're interested to see what that looks like. And that has made a tremendous improvement in my short putting. My lag putting still is lacking and costing me strokes on the golf course, but that should be relatively easy to fix once I get to it. Just needs more practice. So again, same with the full swing, right? Putting is about hitting the center of the face and optimizing your impact conditions such that you start the ball on your intended line. How do you control speed on really fast greens? Good question. I think it's actually easier to control speed on really fast greens once you get the hang of it. So you don't have to hit the ball quite so hard. But again, for speed control, the skill that you need to develop is, what length of stroke will cause the ball to go what distance, right? So whether the greens are rolling at 15 or at 10, that skill is still the same, right? In a way that you could work on that or practice that. What I like to do sometimes when I'm warming up on the green before a tournament, before a regular round, is walk off, 10 paces, right, or roughly 30 feet. Drop some tees down, right? Ideally, you'd have a little, slight uphill and a slight downhill one to get both, right? And then you're just trying to practice, rolling a few balls back and forth to those two tees. So you can kind of calibrate, okay, on these greens, a 30-foot putt is, the putter kind of comes maybe outside my right toe on the way back, and then, I let it come through, and that's going to propel it about 30 feet, right? So you're learning, same as if you were like, oh, I want to learn a 100-yard shot. You're just learning a 30-foot shot on the green and calibrating from there. So when you're out on the golf course, you can say, okay, I walked this putt off. It's 12 feet. It's probably a little bit harder than the 30-foot one that I've calibrated, but not a ton. And that can be a good way to start learning, speed control. Do newer clubs make a big difference in forgiveness and distance? Mine are all about 20 years old. So Skylar, if it comes to drivers and woods, the answer is yes. If it comes to irons like blades, then no. Declan, it's tough but just smooth. Touch work for me, I play on 14.5. Wow, that's fast. Is it worth buying a Spider putter for the price? Well, you could join us on the Spider gang. I'm a Spider guy myself, but this is an old one. This is from 2015, the original Spider Tour. Red, no alignment, no anything on the top. That's what I've been gaming for quite some time. How do I teach someone to putt? Good question, Chad. I think, once you understand the fundamentals yourself, then you can start to teach others. And teaching others, as I've learned through this channel, right, is a great way to understand, my own swing and how the golf swing worked better. I'm trying to always find better and more interesting ways to articulate these things to you guys. Anyway, what I would start with doing is saying, okay, when I'm putting well, or, what the fundamentals I've learned are X. Well, you can teach someone how to do that. Like, hey, this is how you might hold it. And when you set up to it, here's what you might want it to look like, right? Where, you have the ball maybe in the center of the stance or slightly forward of center. And, you can teach them how to grip the putter, how far to stand from it, how to aim your putts, right? Think about all the stuff you do when you hit a 30-foot putt on the golf course. There's a bunch of different skills involved in there. You can teach someone that. Hari Krishna said hi. What's up? Mason said, I like the 50 putts a day thing. Do you do anything like that for net practice? Goals or ways to keep net practice helpful? I don't currently, Mason, because this is not related to your question, but I'm in the middle of moving. My wife and I just bought a house, which is super exciting. So I'm going to be transitioning to a new space pretty soon. So my schedule has been hectic and sporadic, right? So that has made it tougher to get in here every day like I want to. But I should try to do 100 swings a day. Gosh, that feels so different. Really got to drive off the ground to square the face. I get why it's such a good drill. Making progress, guys. The war on early extension. It's never over, but we're making progress. Oh, there's at least a little bit of rotation in the golf swing now, which is awesome. My body's been thanking me. C-Rich says, I have a tournament tomorrow and the greens are fast. Yeah, definitely. C-Rich, make sure you do your homework, right? Check out the golf course. Go on 18 Birdies or one of those apps, you know, Blue Golf online. And, you know, just do the flyover. Play the golf course on your phone or in your computer for 20 minutes beforehand tonight or tomorrow morning. So when you get to the 6th hole, you say, oh, I know, this is a 170-yard par 3. I'm probably going to hit a 6-iron. And if I hit a good one, you know, to the middle of the green, this is how far it'll go. Right, so that you've mentally been to the course before, right? Even if you haven't played a practice round, that can be a really good way to make the tournament less stressful, right? Say, oh, I know what this hole is going to do. It's going to be a dog leg or it's, you know, downhill. Do your research. That can be a really easy way to outperform. Steve, would you suggest a fitting for new woods? I definitely always recommend getting fit if you have questions about your equipment. If you're like, hey, I don't really know, you know, is this what's best for me? You know, what's my club head speed relative to the shafts that I'm playing? You know, I'm not able to, I feel like I'm making good swings, but not getting the ball flight or the distance, right? Maybe you're seeing a really spinny shot. But the other thing I would say is, so the fitting will remove the doubt, right? You say, okay, I hit all the clubs and all the shafts, and if you get the ones that they suggest for you, then at least on that day, you're going to be pretty optimized, right? You're going to know, okay, I don't have to wonder, right? Is there a better club out there? I did the fitting. So that can be really valuable. That's what I liked about it was, oh, I don't have to wonder, is this the right driver shaft for me? Do I have to try a different one? Because I did the fitting, right? But you also don't need to go out and spend a whole bunch of money if you don't need to. But if you are, you know, at that point in your career, you know, kind of golf progression where you're saying, okay, I really want to, you know, get this equipment dialed in and make sure that I don't have to wonder, it's a great idea. That was slightly out of the toe again, I think. I like this drill a lot. All right, so this is the other one I've been doing, guys, with the right foot back. This has been great to really just feel, like, what does it feel like to not get this right hip going forward, right? That was hit pretty good. Thanks, Mason. I appreciate that. David says, I'm 13 and play golf. How do I keep from going over the top? Good question, David. So, if you're coming over the top, I think it's almost always, not always, but almost always a result of the takeaway, right? So, it's going to be most exaggerated with the driver, so I'll grab the driver, but you can do this drill with any club. But what you're going to do is grab a head cover or a towel, something to put out there, just behind and to the right of your golf ball, right? And what this is going to do is force you to adjust your swing in the club path to shallow it out, right? So you're not as steep and over the top. When we say over the top, what do we mean, right? That means the club head is coming inside this way and then looping back over the plane this way to get to the ball, right? So by putting this head cover here, it will block your path to the ball if you were to make that over the top swing, right? I physically cannot hit the ball from there, right? So this is going to teach you to approach the ball from the inside on a much more neutral path. But what I would also tell you is this will get much easier once you learn how to create some width in the takeaway, By that I mean keeping the club head far away from you, right? Give yourself a bunch of space to get this club through, right? You can feel like the hands stay in and the club head stays out, right? And that will make it much easier to shallow the club this way, right? Get it from the inside as opposed to the inside and then over the top way, right? So this is a great drill if you're struggling with driver, with a slice, with that over the top steep move, right? And just teach yourself to hit it from the inside and not hit that head cover. Does that make sense? So really, really good drill for the over the top move. Golf Guy said hi. What's up, Golf Guy? Golfing at Boots Randolph Golf Club. Any tips? I've never played there, but I'd love to play golf in Kentucky sometime. David said, I just subbed. Amazing. Shout out to David. If you guys are enjoying the stream like David, you want to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Try to do more of these streams, you know, sharing some knowledge and tips. Trying to disseminate some amount of the crazy golf knowledge that I picked up over the years of teaching myself to become a decent player. Try with heels together, then heels and toes together. Oh, say, so just heels together first? Tell me more, Paul. So you're talking like this? I just kind of feel like I'm gonna, like those are starting left of where I want them to. Maybe not. Okay. Are you going to build a golf simulator in your new house? I have one in my garage. I built a room within my garage. That sounds awesome. I would love to get a golf simulator set up someday in the new house. That would be awesome. I use a 10-year-old putter because I'm comfortable with it. How difficult, and should I go with a newer one with better technology? I don't think you need to, Boston Dave. I use a 10-year-old putter. This is an old Spider Tour with no fancy technology in it that I know of. You know, it's not like zero torque or face balance or any of that stuff. Tim says, talk to me about game improvement clubs. Well, I think if you're if you're in the target audience, right? If your handicap is above 15, it can be super helpful to use some clubs that make golf easier, right? While you're developing your skills, you know, learning how to consistently deliver a square club face and impact the ball first, then the turf, right? While you're still working on learning those things, it can be a great idea to use some equipment that makes golf easier. As we all know, golf is hard enough. Why make it harder? I like it a lot. I like the heels together. I like the heels and toes together. For me, what I've been doing a little bit too much, guys, is as I'm creating more rotation, I'm letting my shoulders are starting to spin this way. So what I'm really working on a lot is trying to dissociate, keeping my shoulders more square down the target line to not hit these big pulls, right? I've been getting a little bit this way and just the face is still square, which is great. It's just starting left of target. So that's the miss I've been fighting. Wait, do that one more time, fam. Wait, which thing? Okay, Cole says, please show us how to fix the duck hook. All right, so we're going to fix the duck hook, guys. No more duck hooks. The duck hook is a result of, I'm going to assume that you're talking about driver, so I'll grab my driver. Right? That club face and path relationship is just too closed, right? So that if you're hitting a big duck hook, let's say it's maybe even starting left, right? You've got the path, you know, maybe square or even across it, right? But mostly it's that club face being very closed at impact. So it's going to force that ball, right, to start left and curve left, kind of like this, right? Coming out on it. So what you need to do to fix the duck hook, right? Number one, path more neutral and the face more open, right? We don't want to see that ball curving a whole bunch right to left. So, few ways you can work on that, right? You can, if it's in your takeaway, so this is where you need a little bit of understanding of your golf swing, right? You know, if your face is super shut on the way back, right? Maybe it's pointing down at the ground like this, right? This would be a very, very closed takeaway position. You could practice really exaggerating, fanning the toe open, right? Getting that club face more open. Again, if you're slicing the ball, this is not for you. This is if you're hitting a big duck hook, right? And you need to get the face more open. Because ideally, you want that club face here to be pretty much in line with your spine angle, right? So, but you can really exaggerate that feeling to get that face more open. And then the other, you know, if that doesn't work, give yourself a task. Say, okay, I'm going to aim down the fairway. You know, imagine I'm going to hit one right down the middle or to center field, to use a baseball analogy, right? And you're telling me your ball normally is going into like the left trees, right? You're hitting a duck hook. I want you to force yourself to hit into the right trees or aim to center field and hit it down the right field foul line, right? Just force your brain to take over and say, we're hitting it over there, and let your body react and say, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to adjust the path. We're going to force the face more open because we got to get that ball going that way, right? And that's how you start to build the skills of controlling the path in the club face. You're welcome, Boston Dave. I need help hitting my 3-wood and 4 hybrid. Any tips and advice? Yeah, so my best advice is slow the swing down until you can consistently find the center of the face. And then try to maintain that smooth feeling as you add speed, right? But only do so while you can maintain center face contact. Because with those longer clubs, it's so imperative to hit the center of the face. Nip Sauce, what's your knockdown feel? Good question, Nip Sauce. So for me, to hit one lower, right, that's what we're talking about, a knockdown. What I try to feel, two things really, is just like my weight stays a little bit more on my left side, and my follow-through is somewhat abbreviated, right? So if a normal full swing is something like this, right, and you finish kind of up here, or, you know, I like to finish kind of up here, right? And there's a little bit more of a weight shift. To hit a knockdown, I might try to feel like my weight stays on this left side more, right? And then I keep that follow-through shorter, right? You don't have to swing hard at them. But that's still a nice compressed strike, you know, while de-lofting and keeping that flight down. So those are the feels that I go to. Allison, this is the Net Return Pro Series net. John David said hi. Nick Yates says tour card. I wish, dude. I wish. Yeah, Net Return Pro. Check it out. E-Reed says, I have tryouts coming up soon for high school. What should I do, like drills besides playing, to help me get better and prepare? Good question, E-Reed. Good luck at tryouts also. So the drill that I would have you do as much as possible, and it's even better if you have a net, but you can do this on the range. You can do this at home with, you know, foam golf balls. Lots of ways you can make your situation work for practice. But the drill that I'm going to have you do, especially with irons, is just about learning impact, right? And if you're thinking about playing on a high school team, I imagine you played some golf, you know, you're in the middle of your journey of trying to improve your skills, right? But it's so imperative that we, number one, understand what a good impact position is like, right? Where we deliver the club some amount of shaft lean, our hips are open to the target, right? And we've struck it, you know, on a descending angle, right? Down where we're hitting the ball first and then the turf, right? So if those are our three key components, right? Well, you can practice that at slow speed and make a ton of progress. Seriously, like, you know, lean the handle forward, like you're going to hit it that way. You know, practice getting into that impact position. And then just hit some little 50-yard shots where you really work on hitting the center of the face and hitting the ball first, right? Because you want to build those skills. And to do that, I think it's super, super important to slow down, right? Make the swing smaller. Make it easier to focus on that component of the technique, right? Because if you're swinging at full speed and trying to work on your technique, it's going to be much more difficult to make progress. So that's what I would have you do. In addition to that, strategically, spend some time, do some reading, some research, understand what is it that strategically you can do to improve your scores, right? That's avoiding penalty areas, not hitting out of play off the tee, right? And no three putts, avoiding double bogeys. Those are the best ways to keep your scores down. And tailor your game around those tenets, right? Learn how to hit your driver, even if it's only 220 yards. Learn how to hit your driver in play, right? Make a swing where you can hit a shape that's consistent, where you can hit the center of the face and keep your driver in play. That's really going to help your scores. Just like learning how to hit your irons better will. Your strategy can make up for a lot of, things that might be difficult in your swing. My duck hook has ruined my golf game for almost a year. Oh, that's frustrating. Nick says, why do I top the ball? So topping the ball just means that your low point is too far forward, right? We need to move the low point forward some to hit the ball first, right? Because the club starts behind the ball at impact, or at setup, right? But if you're topping it, it just means that low point has gotten too far forward, right? And you're hitting the top of the ball. So what you would need to feel or work on, right, is almost like you're getting your low point further back. Again, this is not good advice if you're not hitting a top. But if you are, right, you need to learn how to get that low point further back. And what often happens when you see people top the ball is they get this part of the body really going forward towards the target, right? Leaning this way and then trying to stand up and hit the ball, right? So if you find yourself really shifting this way, that can make it tough to deliver a good impact position. So keep those things in mind. And again, the advice is the same. Make some smaller swings. Make everything smaller. Right? Learn how to, not top it. Want to swing like this. Right? And you can just hit a bunch of those and practice, hitting the ball first and keeping that low point where it needs to be. And hopefully you won't top it. So ball position nip sauce on a knockdown for me is, if anything, further back, like slightly, but pretty similar. I play most of my irons like right out of the center. Nick says optimal putter grip. I don't know if there is an optimal one. I think putting is so personal. As long as your grip is not impeding you from consistently delivering, a square club face and impact, then go for it, right? I mean, look around the PGA Tour. JJ Spawn just won putting left hand low. Tons of guys putt, conventional, right, with some sort of reverse overlap. I've been trying like a 10-finger grip to get more of my left hand on the club. Shout out to Paul for suggesting that. It's been pretty cool. You've seen the claw, right? Plenty of guys are putting with some sort of saw thing like this, or the pencil, right? So it's so personal in putting. That wasn't very good. I like this Bryson drill too, where he kind of pumps it down to like his hip pocket, right, and then hits it from there. Who else is hanging out in here? Hello. Anything about shoulders? Well, what about shoulders? I Alfonso says, putting is a personal art form. I agree with that. Putting is personal. It's one thing you can't say is right or wrong. There's more optimal methods. You look like you could have kept up with them guys at Oakmont. Nick, I think I would have maybe, if I played amazing, broken 90 at Oakmont. And more likely shot something in like the mid-90s. My index right now is 1 something. It's just so hard, dude. It's long. The greens are crazy. Like, if I had a practice round in a caddy and I played unbelievably well, I think I could shoot something in the high 80s. It's just such a hard course. I mean, and I think like half of the days I probably wouldn't break 100. Like if I played 10 times, I might shoot like 1 round in the high 80s, a bunch of mid 90s, and like a couple low 100 scores. I don't know. Maybe I'm, overestimating how difficult it is, but I don't think I am. So shoulders, what I've been working on with the shoulders right now is trying to keep them more square, right? Closed for longer. So my tendency recently has been to spin the shoulders this way, right? Throw the club out, and then I'm, hitting a pull. So for me, trying to feel like they're not spinning out this way, right? While I'm also doing this drill, with the feet to work on balance and ball striking. That was a little bit of the pulley swing I could feel. I struggle with my hands falling behind in the downswing, getting stuck. Any tips? Been a struggle for a while. Good question, OZT. So the drill I would have you do if you're feeling stuck, right? You want to have you feel like your arms and your hands are more in front of your body. This is a drill I'm going to borrow from Rory, pretty good swinger of the club. What he does to feel that is to split his grip, right? Put this hand further down the handle and make some swings, right? Back, and then especially on the downswing, pay attention to this feel. Right? What does it feel like to get that elbow in front of your body? And splitting your grip will really help you exaggerate and get that feel. Right? Because ultimately, that's what we're looking for, this kind of, rotational movement into the ball. So this is going to be really hard to get stuck like this, right? Because, you just wouldn't swing the club that way. So that can be a really good drill to feel the arms getting more, staying in front of you, right, all the way through the swing. So give that one a try if you're feeling stuck. And if you guys are enjoying the stream like these guys, feel free to like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Ibad said hi. What's up, Ibad? What's up with your feet and your stance? Yeah, Benny, we're doing a drill. That's just a balance drill. Don't worry. I don't hit full shots like that. No, imagine if I rocked up to the golf course on number 1 tee and you saw me just drop a ball and hit shots like this. That would be hilarious. Just like, hey, I'm here to play golf and this is how I swing. No, this is just a drill. Don't worry, Benny. It's okay. Working on balance and pivot. Right, and then you can make it even more difficult. Keep the feet together. So then hopefully, when you go to hit it normal, right, keep everything nice and balanced. It's not bad. Jalmer says, I bought a golf mat. When I tried, it felt weird because the mat was too thin. How do you set up the mat and hit on it like on the range? So, good question. What I had to do was build this platform, right? And I put some padding underneath. There's like gym, the foam tiles that go together. I put a bunch of those and cut them up, put them in here to build a base, right? So that there's a little bit more cushion when you hit the ball, right? Because otherwise, with just a thin mat on a hard surface, you can injure yourself. You're going to be putting a lot of tension and pressure on your joints, right? In a way that the golf course doesn't, right? That's what divots are. The turf, giving some. So I think getting something underneath your mat can be super helpful to make it much more comfortable to hit on repeatedly over and over again, right? And I don't have to worry about, like, am I going to get a jolt through my wrist if I really, you know, hit down on one, right? So that's what I would look into. You could also, you know, prop it up on, like, you know, some blankets or pads of some kind. You know, I only built this this platform so that I could, you know, keep it all together and have this be a little more permanent. So, but the mat is also, as you can see over here, you know, not lasting all that long. So we'll see what the long-term solution is. Benny said, okay, LOL. Car Detail said hi. What's up, Car Detail? Nick said, do you recommend Scheffler footwork? Well, I would recommend swinging it and hitting it like Scotty Scheffler. So whatever he's doing is obviously working. He's, you know, best player in the world. But no, I think what you would want to learn from Scotty's swing is not the footwork, but just how consistently he delivers a square club face and impact, right? And how consistently he strikes the center of the club face. Those are things that, footwork or otherwise, we could all use more of in our own swings. Right? Let's see how those look on camera. Pretty good. Do you have any tips about not lowering your shoulder when you swing? Which shoulder? Jason, help me out understand your question a little better. Left shoulder, right shoulder? I keep hitting a slice with my driver. How do I fix that? I can definitely help you with that Car Detail. And Benny says just subscribed. Amazing, Benny. If you guys are enjoying the stream like Benny, you want to help us out and subscribe, that'd be amazing. We are zooming past 2,000 subs. Just monetize the channel, guys. Shout out to you guys. Okay, so if you're slicing the driver, Car Detail, what you got to do, grab your head cover, your driver head cover, and I want you to drop it down just behind and to the right of your golf ball. Right? Set it up just like that. And start slow, you know, maybe half speed. Right? But start hitting shots where you don't hit this head cover. What I think will happen is if you're slicing it a lot and your swing is a little bit inside and over the top, right? You're going to, you know, that path to the ball is going to be blocked because of your path. Right? So this is going to train you to deliver that club much more, you know, shallowly and from the inside. Right? That will help straighten that ball flight out as long as you get the club face closed. Right? So practice hitting some drives with this setup, right? Where you don't hit that head cover. And you should see that golf ball start to straighten out. Right? And remember that the over the top or the slice move with the driver is often caused by the club head getting this way, inside on the takeaway. Right? This is not what we want. We want this club head to travel on a wide arc, right? You could try to feel like you're keeping the club head low to the ground when you take it away, right? As low as you possibly could to keep it out there, nice and wide, right? That's going to give us all kinds of space to get that club head and, more importantly, that club face back to the ball in a square position, right? Because if you get this way and this way, well, you're going to have a really tough time, right? If you're, especially with the driver, getting super steep. So give that a try. How can I make better contact on the face of my irons? Good question from Double K Fishing. Shout out to you. So what we're going to do, grab a short iron. I have a 9-iron here. This is for contact, right? So I'm going to try to hit this 9-iron 40 yards, right? But what I'm going to do is make sure that I hit the center of the face, and I'm just going to practice my impact. Boom. Making sure that I'm leaning that shaft forward, I'm hitting down on it some, and I'm not finding the heel or the toe. If you want to make this more difficult, you could grab, you know, some alignment rods or some tape, right? Give yourself a physical barrier such that if you don't hit the center of the face, right, imagine, you know, for me, my miss is on the toe. So if I hit it on the toe, right, boom, I'm going to hit this stick. And I'm going to get instant feedback that I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't hit it on the toe, right? So you could set this up, give yourself, you know, a little bit of leeway, but not a ton. You know, you can also put some tape down or a chalk line, right? Something to give yourself some feedback. And make that same short swing. And avoid those sticks or that tape, whatever you have set up there. These are tough because they're going to bounce. But on a grass range, you won't have that problem. Right? Something like that. And you can just train that over and over again. You know, I should probably use the tape because of how these are set. They're going to rest on there. Boom. So that's a good drill. Two-parter. 350 people. You guys are nuts. I can't for the life of me make solid, consistent contact with my 6-iron. I can hit other irons, just not my 6. Well, I think you gotta, I think that's probably a little bit of a mental thing potentially, right? If you're saying, hey, all my other irons are good, but you know, the 4's good, the 5's good, 7's good. What I would do is I would hit a whole bucket of balls with that 6-iron and just make that thing, you know, teach it a lesson, right? You're in charge. You just got to break that mental thing of, I can't hit this club, right? You're just going to hit it a whole bunch. Just learn how to hit it the same as your other irons. You know, do some drills, do some other things, right? Make that, you know, make sure it knows who's boss. You're in charge. Do you know of any good, cheap nets? No, but I think there are definitely some that you could find online which are not too expensive, right? This one is more of a premium, like built to last type setup, right? But you know, for a decent price, I bet you could find something online that's serviceable. But you know, read the reviews. That's what I do. I believe in the democracy of the internet, right? I like to think that, you know, I'm adding some value to you guys. That's why you guys keep subscribing and telling me, you know, to keep doing these live streams and stuff, right? Just like how, you know, if a product has 1,000 reviews and they all say it's crap, well, it's probably crap. And if it says they're all good, then it's probably decent. I know it's not perfect nowadays, but hey, what's up, Joshua? Any tips on practicing at home without a net? Great question, Card Detail. So I do have tips for this. I've done this a bunch myself. What you got to do is, just like I have set up, grab a tripod or some way to set up your phone. You can use a mirror too, right? And just, you know, find a place you can swing, grab a club. You don't have to be able to hit balls. And I've done a bunch of this. You can just practice. Like, so here's an example. I have for a long time struggled with my takeaway getting too inside, right? The club head gets this way and then I get steep, right? So over the winter, this past year, what I did a whole bunch of was just in a mirror, set up behind me, right? Just like you could use your phone. I just practiced making a takeaway that was more like this, right? And I just over and over again, just trained that movement to try to ingrain it, you know, and override that old pattern, right? The old pattern being this, and I'm trying to feel this, right? So keeping my hands in and the club head out, right? There's just so much more room. I hit the ball way better. But I made a ton of progress in my golf swing without ever hitting a golf ball, right? I just broke it down to that small movement. And I still do this sometimes, right? I'll just practice keeping that club head out there, giving myself that room, and I just hit the ball a lot better. So that can be a great way to practice. Any drills help with closing the face too much at impact? So, Michael, you got to learn how to keep the face open, right? If you're hitting a big hook, if the face is too closed, then learn how to hit a big cut. Get the face open, right? What's the proper setup for irons and wedges? Oh, we got some superstars. What's up, superstar? Hi. Hi. You being good? Yeah. 2 superstars. What's up? Hi. Yeah, do you love golf too? Do you love golf too? I know, it's so exciting.
The case is almost ready.
Okay. Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll see you soon. I know, did you miss me? Oh, that's awesome. Go on, go with your mother. Dave says, oh, sorry, Peyton. What's the proper setup for irons and wedges? I'm really new, so I'm not sure about any of it. Okay, well, I can help with this, Peyton. So, setup-wise, right, basic stuff. You're going to want the ball position pretty close to the center of your stance. You know, feet are going to be shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider. Right, when you set up to the ball, you want this club, this handle, slightly closer. Right, so if the ball's in the center of the stance, maybe my hands are kind of on this left thigh, so that that handle's leaning forward some. Right? Then you grip it. You know, the grip's in the fingers, not the palms. I keep my pinky just kind of floating on top here, an overlap style. You can also interlock or just go 10 finger. It's really preference, but you know, once you're set up to it, right, that's kind of what it looks like. You know, you're bending mostly from the hips. Your knees are softly bent because they're holding your weight, right? But you're not really, you know, bent this way. It's more of a hip bend, right? To, you know, keep your glutes out. Make sure you have this room to swing the club. So that's where I would start. Do you full swing driver into that net? I sure do. How to hit well with driver? I hit it well sometimes, most of the time, hit to the sky. Putt King said, great tip. Thanks, guys. So if you're hitting it up in the sky, right, you're not hitting the center of the face. You're hitting it, you know, really like up on top, or, you know, maybe the ball's teed up too high. But what you got to do to practice that impact position, right, is just make the swing smaller. I was doing this a whole bunch last week, where I was hitting some drivers at like 50% speed, right? And I just got in here, and I was practicing just making sure that I'm hitting that center of the club face, and I'm, you know, making good contact, right? And that can be a great drill to work on hitting the center of the face, right? That's really going to optimize our launch conditions. Sure am, car detail. Just watched the video of you playing at Vesper. Yeah, Vesper is amazing. I love Vesper Country Club. I have a scramble tomorrow. I'm the big hitter. Any tips? Yeah, hit last so that you know what to do. All right, like if somebody, you know, if all other balls are not in play, then like maybe you don't hit driver and just try to keep one in the fairway. If you have a long driver, that can always be fun, like a 48-inch one, like a long driver to bring to a scramble. That can be fun. I don't have one, but I've seen people do it. And you can hit some really long tee shots, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I think just play your best. And car detail, don't be sorry for commenting. That's what we're doing this for, right? The whole point is to comment and engage and chat. DPS says transfer your weight onto your front side. Good tip. Any tips to hit a stealth 1 driver? So see, Rich, you know, whether it's a stealth driver or a 20-year-old driver or a brand new one, right? The idea is going to be the same. We want to be hitting up at this ball at impact. We want to strike the center of the club face. And we want a face and path relationship that sends the ball, you know, on a pretty straight trajectory towards our target. Right? So those fundamentals are the same no matter what driver you have. And I really like that drill of just, you know, slow the swing down, make it smaller, really, you know, hit the center of the face consistently over and over and over again. What's your handicap? Between +1 and 1 usually. How do you know you're hitting it when you're on a net? So that's a good question, right? So I've hit thousands and thousands of golf balls in my life. So pretty immediately after I make impact, I can tell, oh, that was a little thin, that was out of the toe or the heel. Right, and that's a skill that you learn over time. But if you are just learning and you say, well, I want to make sure that I'm not getting false feedback, right? Because hitting off a net is easier than grass. Or, you know, if you hit heavy, hit behind it, it can bounce into the ball and kind of simulate a good strike. So a way to help with that, right, is grab some tape like this, drop it down behind your ball, right, and give yourself, you know, maybe a finger's width here, right, such that when you are practicing, you're ensuring you're not getting that false feedback, right? Because if I do, you know, say I keep my weight back, I don't shift my weight, and I hit behind it, what's going to happen? I'm going to hit that tape, right? There's the feedback I need that I'm not getting from the grass like I would if I was hitting on a grass range, right? So give that a try while you're still developing your skills. But over time, you will learn, like, what does it feel like to hit one solidly like that, you know, where it's close to the center of the face and struck ball first, versus like if I hang back on it, right, I can tell, like, I felt the ground before the ball. So a couple different ways to approach it. How do you know if the ball is going straight when you're on a net? You don't, but that is sometimes a benefit, right? You know, it for me has allowed me to focus more on technical things, like, you know, not like you know, not extending so much and getting some more rotation, because I'm not worried about the target. I can just work on the functional movement and then not be focused on, you know, well, did I still hit the ball towards the target? Why don't you have a simulator? We don't have enough space in here at the moment, but hopefully there will be a simulator soon. What's up, RG? Cardi, tell us, what's your favorite public course? My favorite public course that I've played. Good question. I'm gonna think about that. Pebble Beach is the one that I haven't played that I really, really want to play. Let me see. What's the ranking currently? Sea Island, I've played there. Stream Song, I've played those. Those are good. Playing Sand Valley later this year. Bandon, I haven't played. I've not played there. Oh, Bethpage, I played. That's really good. Pinehurst #2 has got to be up there. Oh, Kiowa Ocean Course, I've played that one. Whistling Straits, I've played. And the rest of these I haven't. So the highest ranked public course that I've played is the Ocean Course, #5. I've also played Pinehurst #2, which is #6. Teaching a simulator would be cool. Yeah, I know. I would love to have a simulator. How do I practice at home? Aiden, so you got to just work on some positions in a mirror and just make some, you know, do some little moves, right? So you can practice your takeaway as one, like, kind of small move and just train that movement over and over again. That's how you really shift your golf swing around. Lil P-Man, these are the Tacoma 301 CB irons. And guys, if I missed your question, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up as best I can, not missing any questions, but are the suede hitting mats that tell you where you're hitting any good? So I've seen John Sherman recommend that divot board product, so I might look into one of those. Right, just as another kind of checkpoint for where my impact is. See if, you know, this mat is masking any bad habits, but I don't really think so. I think I've hit enough golf balls. I have a pretty good sense of what the strike is like. Santi wants to know, how do I drive further? And Dakota asks, my bump and run game is coming along. My flop shots are very inconsistent. So Dakota, I would suggest to you, if you're a beginner golfer or you're still working on these shots, you know, practice is one thing, but when you're on the golf course, when you're chipping around the green, your goal is always just to get it on the green, right? And unless you have to hit a mega flop right over a bunker or something, I would suggest learning more of like a stock chip, right? Like a pretty basic, you know, not a ton of wrist, just a chip shot, right, where you can get the ball up out of the rough and onto the green and pretty consistently playing your next shot from the green, right, even if it's 20, 30 feet from the hole. So to drive it further, Santi, good question. All of us want to hit it further. Golf gets easier the further you can hit it. We know that now with data. 2 options for hitting it further. You can, number 1, swing the club faster. That's speed training, fitness training, right? Lifting weights, increasing your engine, right? Being able to, move the club faster. That's option 1. Option 2 is swing at the same speed you currently do, but optimize your launch conditions, right? That means hitting the center of the club face, launching it at the appropriate angle, with some upward angle of attack, and spin around 2,000 or low 2,000s RPM, right? So those are your 2 choices. For most of us, it's going to be more realistic to start out by hitting the center of the face more consistently, and then learning how to, build speed, right? Whether that's, you can also just do it with a driver. You don't need a fancy, overspeed system like that super speed one I have. You could just say, I'm gonna hit 50 balls today, like a workout, right? And I'm just gonna try to swing it as fast as I can. I'm gonna train those muscles, and I'm gonna swing 50 drivers as fast as I can and get used to swinging fast on the range. And I'm not gonna care where the ball goes. My only goal is to try and build up my club head speed, right? That's another way you could do it. So hopefully that makes sense with your 2 choices. What's your opinion on elevating the driver at address? So I do that, so I think it's great. I swing hard on the downswing. That's my miss. Have any tips? So yeah, you don't want to overswing on the downswing, right? I try to feel like if I make a good backswing, then the downswing kind of just happens, right? If I get the club in a good spot, right, something like that, then I don't have to do a whole lot. I'm just kind of letting my body uncoil and trying to, get that club face on the ball. So I'm not a big fan of downswing thoughts or like trying to really focus on things in the downswing. I think Ben Hogan said that downswing thoughts are killers. That was hit pretty well in the middle of the face. Jackson says, I make golf content too. Awesome. Shout out to you, Jackson. I've really been enjoying it. I only started in January. It never really, I'd film my swing like at the range, but never, for the intent of making content or anything like that. And I've had a ton of fun with it, just learning how to, film myself, what are good angles, how to edit videos, right? Everything you see, guys, has been done on my iPhone. So all the videos are edited on my iPhone, filmed on my iPhone. You don't need a ton of fancy equipment to get started, right? There's good apps out there you can use that are free. So I've tried to encourage people to try it, see if you like it. Like I knew that I wanted to do something with golf and, make something and find a way to give back and share not only like golf knowledge and stuff that I've learned, but, some life experience stuff and my journey with, sobriety and mental health and dealing with some of those things and using golf as the container by which to talk about those things. Right? So, and I knew that, well, being a content creator isn't like a job you get hired for, right? You just start doing it and then maybe you start making some money or otherwise. But you just got to start. Same with anything. Like if you want to start getting better at golf, well, just thinking about it isn't going to help, right? You got to start practicing or, start learning about the game. Like you just got to start. And that's true of everything. Drills for early extension. Yeah, so I've been doing a bunch of these Oz. CSC Rich, thanks for being here. Right, for the early extension stuff, we're talking about, guys, when the swing is steep and we're trying to get through the ball, right? A lot of us, myself included, start going this way with the hips, right? And then you got to tilt backwards to hit the ball, right? And this causes a lot of pressure on the lower back, makes it hard to hit the ball consistently. So what I've been working on is trying to keep these hips back, creating space through impact, right? And really pivoting and rotating, right, to keep that pressure off the back and excuse me, make it easier to make solid contact, right? You don't have to time it up so much. You just go and hit. So the drills that I've been doing, right? Number one, like half swings. So just, what does it look like to break the swing down into smaller parts, right? And not extend, right? Rotate the hips through. This one I've been doing a lot that I've really enjoyed, where you take your normal setup, right? Drop this right foot back up on your toe, like this, right? And make a swing. What you'll notice there, right? You can't get going that way, right? So it kind of forces your left foot to win, and then you can rotate through and not extend. Another one that's really easy, hit a normal shot, but push your toes up into the top of your shoe, right? Almost like they were going to come off the ground, right? And what that will force you to do, it's also very hard to extend when you're rotating that way, right? So if you're not, if your toes aren't touching the ground, you're going to be forced to, use some other way to square that club face, right? And that's going to be a lot more rotation and make it harder to extend. Is it worth it to get a big-headed driver? Well, I thought so. I went to the max head this year to get something more forgiving, because I tested it on TrackMan and I found that it was about the same on the good shots as the core head, the less forgiving model. But the bad shots were much more penalized with that other head. I am probably going to run soon, guys, because I'm playing 6:15 or 6:10, something like that, tomorrow morning. But I do just love hitting balls in here, and I love that you guys are getting something positive out of these streams, learning something, hanging out with me while we practice, chatting about some golf stuff, some non-golf stuff, right? Doing some drills. Yeah, that's good right there. When practicing at home, how do you know if you hit a ball well? Good question, Steve. Oh, Aiden, I think I answered your question. I said yes, I love hovering the driver. I do that myself. JDY said hi. What irons do you recommend for an intermediate golfer? Are you using the Callaway? I have these Tacoma irons. These are great. But if you're an intermediate golfer, I think, something forgiving, something that has a little bit of technology to help you get the ball up in the air. Looks like a hybrid. Yeah, THC Tycoon. Like the R9 bag, classic driver. Agree. Yeah, this is a 5 hybrid. We've gone to a whole bunch of head covers. 7 woods. 5 woods. Who needs irons? My longest iron now is a 6 iron. And some balance drills, right? Keeping the feet together. Be a really good one. If you guys are enjoying the stream, like a bunch of these guys, please feel free to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. That was maybe hit out of the toe slightly. Whew. There we go. It's just all in that takeaway, guys. For me, it's either this is bad or this is good. Awesome. So Steve, how do you know if you hit it well, right? If you're a beginner and you haven't yet developed kind of that feel for a good strike, you can drop a towel or a piece of tape down behind you, and that will give you some immediate feedback if you were to, hit behind it and hit heavy, right? From not shifting your weight forward. Right, but over time you will learn and develop those skills and feels. Say, okay, wow, that was hit really out of the center. Dakota said, appreciate you, broski. Appreciate it. What do you play on a golf course? Like, what do I score? Usually in like the 70s. I shot 68 last week at a pretty easy golf course, but that was fun. A week before that, I think I shot 79. So it's a little hit or miss. Yeah, that's nice right there. Oh. I have to get this club re-gripped, but that can happen before too long. Ball position for a 7-iron. I'm going to say right in the center. Right smack in the middle of the stance. That's where I play my irons. Get this driver. Tips to improve my distance. So LeBon, you can swing the club faster or optimize your launch conditions. Those are kind of the two choices. To stop a slice, do you swing towards right field? Does that really help? It definitely will. So EP, if you imagine EP Sports, if you had... So again, that's not necessarily... how I would teach you to do it, but that is what you want to do, right? Because when you're slicing it, imagine you were playing ping pong, right? You wanted to hit like a spinny drop shot. Well, you would open the face of the paddle and you would kind of cut down and across it, right? To put a bunch of backspin on. It would take a bunch of speed off. The ball wouldn't go very far, right? And it's going to curve left to right. Same thing as your slice. So that face is open and you're cutting a kind of a cross, right? Now imagine conversely, if you wanted to hit a draw or like a hook, right, or a top spin forehand in ping pong, to use my same example, right, you would square the face and approach, low from the inside and high and put top spin on the ball. Right now in golf, we're only hitting up on the driver, but the path idea is the same, right? So if you were to get the club swinging more towards right field, right, and you've squared the face, you should produce some sort of draw, right? So that is the answer to fixing the slice. But even more importantly, I want you to understand the impacts of, the face and path relationship, right? And one way that a lot of beginners would be, you can learn this really quickly by saying, okay, my last 10 golf balls, I'm going to alternate trying to, say you're on the range and you've got 10 balls left, and every other ball, one's going to be a big hook and one's going to be a big slice. It could be any club, 6-iron, driver, right? But get in here, hit a big slice, right? What does that have to feel like? Next ball, boom, big hook, right? Boom. Next shot, big slice. And just, you're trying to develop those skills, right? The club face control, the path control, within the context of your own swing, right? And you can get creative. Do those kinds of drills. See, if you're struggling with a slice, see what's the biggest hook you can hit, right? Aim it way out to the right. Try to get that ball turning a whole bunch from right to left. It doesn't have to stay in the fairway or in the, on the range, right? But just learn how to get that face more closed and neutralize that path, right? And boom, you can just, start developing your skills. That's going to get you a lot further than just, here's a drill you can do and you'll hit it straighter for a while, But you don't actually have a good handle on, like, you know, where's the path, where's the face. So that's going to do it for tonight, guys. If you enjoyed the stream, please do hit that subscribe button. We're going to do more of this soon, I promise. It's been so much support from you guys. I'm really grateful for all of the support, all the likes, all the comments in the stream, all the subscribers. Shout out to you guys. I mean, really, that's what motivates me to keep doing this, and we're going to keep doing it. So shout out to you guys. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.